If you are in the Medicare space, then I know that you've heard of something called the AHIP. Well, in this video, what I want to discuss is how can we pass the AHIP in the first try. And before I get into any information about the AHIP and how we can pass it in the first try, I do want to say that there's plenty of agents out there that talk about the AHIP like it's some impossible test, that you have to have this genius IQ to get through it. And the reality is it's not the easiest test in the world, but the process is really not that difficult. You're given plenty of time and attempts and resources to pass the AHIP, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video. And not only are you given all these resources to pass the AHIP, literally the process is preparing you for the final test of the AHIP. So there's so much out there that's helping you succeed in this process. I want to say that AHIP is not setting you up for failure by any means. It's actually just setting you up to pass it. Everyone wants the AHIP to be passed, right? It's not something that they want a lot of agents out there failing. The AHIP is meant to help as many agents be the best agents that they can be. And there's lots of information in our other videos. So before I start with the information, I do want to invite you to subscribe to our page, like the page, watch some of our other videos on the School of Brock on our Brock Partner page. Get out there, learn information about Medicare. And one great resource for that is the AHIP certification. Another great resource is our YouTube page, where you can find out exactly how we're training agents to be great agents and do things like this, like pass the AHIP the very first time. So let's start with this. What is the AHIP? Before I can really tell you how to pass the AHIP on the first try, you got to know what it is. You may be a brand new agent that's looking to sell for the first time, or you may be an agent who's done this 20 years in a row, whatever. You still need to understand what AHIP is. And then we're going to talk about some other things like why do we need the AHIP, where do we get the AHIP, when can we take the AHIP. But we're going to start with what is the AHIP. What is the AHIP? Well, it's a certification that every Medicare agent has to go through in order for carriers to contract and allow an agent to sell their Medicare Advantage plans and their prescription drug plans. AHIP stands for America's Health Insurance Plans, and it's a 5-module certification that an agent must complete with a final exam in order to be certified to sell all these drug plans and Medicare Advantage plans in the market. And again, it is required for you to sell Medicare Advantage plans and prescription drug plans. So this is not an optional test. I mean, technically, it's optional. You don't have to take the AHIP to sell things like Medicare Supplements or health ancillary products, life insurance. But at the end of the day, if you're going to sell Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans through the Medicare with Medicare, then you are absolutely required to have this certification to pass this test. The carriers will not contract you to sell their plans for this selling season if you do not have the AHIP certification. So it's a 5-module certification, and then there is a fraud, waste, and abuse certification at the end of that you take after you pass the AHIP. But those 5 modules are set up to prepare you to take the final AHIP exam. And that final AHIP exam is a timed test that you can take in order to become certified. Now, the cool thing about that final exam, that timed exam, is that it is a 2-hour exam. So there's plenty of time that you're given to complete that test. It's also an open book test. So you get a lot of resources and a lot of resources out there that you can use and reference for the final exam. It's not a final exam that you go into that you have to memorize all this stuff. So if you're somebody who's thinking to yourself, oh gosh, I can't memorize things very well, I'm horrible at memory, I don't want to take that test. Listen, you don't have to be great at memory because it is an open book test, which makes it an easier process all together. And again, these modules that you go through, it sounds a little tedious, but they're preparing you to pass the final exam. So this is not something that you have to go in there blindly and do. A lot of agents, the mistakes that they make is that they get into these modules and they just click through them, because a lot of them don't require you. A lot of the modules that you go through for the AHIP certification, it doesn't require you to actually watch the videos or whatnot to actually move forward to the next module. Now, what they do, these modules, they have review tests at the end of every module that you must pass in order to move forward. And a lot of agents, what they'll do is they'll essentially cheat on these modules. Well, I'm going to tell you how we can pass the AHIP exam on the first try at the end of the video, but I'll tell you right now, without a doubt, if you're cheating your way through the modules, that's not a great first step to passing the AHIP on your first try, because the review tests that you take in each module are there to prepare you to take the final exam. And a lot of the questions on the review test will be on your final exam. So that's a little tip for you right away on just what the AHIP is. So it's a certification, a module process with a review test at the end, a final exam that prepares you to sell Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans. And the good news is you will learn something about Medicare that's useful for your business in the AHIP certification process. Now let's talk about why. Why do they require that you take AHIP? Well, I want to start by saying this. It's not like these carriers in Medicare are just randomly throwing certification at you just to do it. They're not just randomly throwing this out there to make you take another test, right? They put this in place, and they want you to have the certification to really make sure that every agent is qualified to sell these products. If you've been selling Medicare products, or you're learning to sell Medicare products, then you certainly have already figured out that there's a lot of moving parts, and that Medicare can be very complicated. And we would have a crazy industry if every agent out there was just shooting from the hip, right? Just shooting from the hip. No pun intended with AHIP, but they're just shooting from AHIP, right? No, we want agents to be prepared, and so do the carriers. And so that's why the AHIP is something that they require. And in the AHIP certification, you're going to learn things like Medicare rules, marketing guidelines, enrollment periods, fraud and abuse prevention, and beneficiary rights. So there's lots of things that you're going to learn that will help you as an agent. And that is why the AHIP is even a thing. That's why it's a requirement in order to sell these Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans, because the carriers want to make sure that every agent that they contract for their products is qualified to sell those products. Medicare's got a lot of moving parts. There's compliance. There's things that you need to know. And ultimately, the AHIP is meant to educate you as an agent and protect you in your business, but it's also there to protect beneficiaries from bad actors. And if you're watching this video, you've seen any of our other videos, you know that the industry is really trying its best to eliminate bad actors these past 2 years, and will continue to do so. And that's what the AHIP has done. It's out there to weed out agents who don't want to take time to perfect their craft. And so honestly, as an agent, you should be thankful that it's there, because as long as you're someone who puts in the time to complete the AHIP, you will accomplish exactly why it's out there, and that is to train agents and make them be as best as they can be and sharpen their skills. Next, I want to talk about, when should I take the AHIP? Well, spoiler alert, I'm not going to suggest that you wait till last second. Theoretically, I can take it as long as I get it done in time to sell plans for the next year, for 2027, then I can take it then. So there, I can put it off a little while if I wanted to, but I'm not going to suggest that, right? Medicare, the annual enrollment period is October 15th, and really you can start presenting plans October 1st, but that doesn't mean you want to wait till September whatever to take that test. Matter of fact, I'll walk the walk. I'm talking, I'll walk the walk. Our LOA team in office, including myself, we are required to, and we require agents to complete, our LOAs, to complete the certification by the end of July. So July 31st is the last day that one of our agents is allowed to take that test. If they don't have their AHIP certification by then it can ruin the process and some of the training that we do. And I would suggest the same thing for you. I would not put that off. I wouldn't prolong that, because of course there's a process to getting the certifications after that with each carrier that you need to do. So I wouldn't put that off at all. Now, maybe you're a brand new agent. Same thing. Don't put it off. Now, I will give you a tidbit of information, helpful tip here. If you're a brand new agent, let's say you got your license in June, I wouldn't even take the AHIP really for the year that we're in. So right now for 2026, I wouldn't take that AHIP, and you can't right now. You can't even take the 2026 once the 2027 becomes available. But let's say for next year, you become a new agent, you're licensed in May. You could go ahead and take the AHIP so you can sell plans for that year between May and June and July, sure, whatever. But honestly, we train our agents, our LOAs in-house, or not even train. We set it up to where they don't take that AHIP if they get licensed at that point. We just go ahead and wait for the next one coming up. So if you're a brand new agent, go ahead and take the one for the next year. As of right now, you can't even take the one for the year that we're in. You're taking it for the 2027 season, but you'll start selling plans in October. So you're taking the AHIP for plans that are going to be available for people in 2027, but you will be selling in the fourth quarter of this year in 2026. So my suggestion is, really, if you haven't already done the AHIP certification, you're watching this video, go do that AHIP certification ASAP. As long as you have your license and all that jazz, go do that ASAP right now so that you can be certified in a timely fashion. Where do I take the AHIP, right? Where do I take the AHIP? Well, it is completed online, and a lot of times you can go through a carrier portal to get there. There's some other places that you can access the website to take the AHIP, but it is online. That's what you would do. Now, I do want to say that if you were to go through a carrier to get that done, you actually can get a discount on the AHIP, and sometimes you'll see discounts of around 50, maybe even $75 through certain carriers. You can actually even get discounts through certain FMOs. I mean, here at Brock, we even offer a discount for our partners to get that AHIP certification, so that they don't have to pay that full price, which is great for agents. And so you can get a discount if you go through the carrier. And so you will complete the AHIP online. That's where you complete the AHIP. And I do want to say something that you need to keep in mind is that you obviously want to use a computer or some technology that is very dependable, because you have 2 hours. So if you're on Wi-Fi or internet that's not dependable, that could be a headache for you. So keep in mind that it is something that you do online, so you need to think about that as you're taking your AHIP certification. And then finally, how do we pass the AHIP on the first try? Now, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you. I do want to say that once you pay for the AHIP, you will actually get 3 chances at the final exam. And you actually get unlimited tries on each module test, or each module review test. So those are fine. You take those as many times as you need to get the score that is satisfactory and you feel comfortable with that information. Now, as far as taking your final exam, you have 3 attempts with each purchase. And there's a lot of agents out there that will tell you that you have to pass it in that first 3 attempts in order to get contracted. That's not necessarily true. You can purchase the AHIP again after the fact and take it another 3 times. And it really depends on carriers and certain rules that they set for their standards as far as letting you be contracted or contracting you, depending on how many times you took it. Some carriers won't contract you if you failed it those first 3 times on that first purchase. Some will actually contract you even if you have to purchase it again. We've actually seen that with plenty of agents where they purchased it a second time and then they were able to sell for the upcoming selling season. So you do have 3 attempts for every purchase, but you want to pass this the first time, right? That's the most efficient way to do this, is to pass it on the first time so I don't have to worry about it. So let's talk about, how do I pass this the first time? Well, number 1 is this: actually do the modules. They're there to teach you. They're not there to make this boring and tedious, though it can be tedious. It's not there to do that. It's there to teach you. And this is useful information that will help you as an agent not only be able to talk about plans, but it will help you run a business that's for the Medicare industry. So you certainly need to look at the modules, study them, and actually gather that information and do the review test. And when you do the review test, actually try on those and learn from those questions. Again, a bit of information. A lot of those questions that you get on the review test for each module will be on your final exam. So you need to pay attention to those. Next, take notes. I mentioned earlier that this is an open book exam. There's nobody that's going to be proctoring you, right, on your screen. They're not going to make you open your camera and watch you while you do it. Now, that's not me saying go cheat. I'm telling you the opposite. If that were the case, I could just make a 30-second video here telling you how to cheat on the AHIP, and we're not doing that. We want all of our agents to be quality agents that know how to sell and how to do this stuff compliantly, and the AHIP is there to help them. So take notes. When you see the terminology in the module, write those terms down, study them, get to know them. When you miss a question, write it down. When you're confused about something, use Google or whatever to research that and learn it in another way. Find an agent that you trust. Find an FMO that you trust that can maybe give you some pointers on the information that you're getting if you're confused about it. But really take this as time to learn the information and take notes so that you are learning that. And then, of course, use the resources, right? Use the resources that you're gathering, including those notes. Use the resources that you have that helps you pass the AHIP. So make sure you're taking notes and use those resources because it is an open book test. Next is eliminate wrong answers. This is something that you've been learning as a test taker forever. These questions, they're going to be designed to test you, obviously, but they're designed to really help you understand why something's compliant or how it's compliant. So eliminate wrong answers as you go. You look at your answers, eliminate them based on why it's not correct. And again, some of these questions are not overly hard. If you take time to eliminate answers, you will certainly come up with the right one. Here's another tip for you. Take breaks occasionally. You have a 2-hour time limit. Now, don't go and take a 30-minute lunch break in the middle of this, but step away for 5 minutes. If your brain's starting to feel a little bogged down as you're taking the test, take a 5-minute break. Step away, get your thoughts together, come back and complete the test as you keep going. Honestly, we've been able to do the whole process, take all the modules and the AHIP in under 2 hours, and you get 2 hours alone just from the final exam. So you can certainly do it in a timely fashion if you do take some breaks. So don't be afraid to take some breaks and step away for a second. And then my final advice is don't chase a perfect score. How do you pass the AHIP? Well, you have to score 90% or higher, and that means you can miss 5 questions. If you miss 6, you're going to fail the test. You can miss 5 and you'll pass. You have to get a 90. So you don't have to chase a perfect answer. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. You need a 90 to pass. A 90 is the same thing as 100 when it comes to the AHIP. Of course, we all love getting 100%. I've had 100% on the AHIP. It feels great. But agents who make a 90 are getting to sell the same products that I made that I get to sell making 100. So don't feel like you're chasing that perfect score. You just want to get that 90% or above. So in closing, I want you to understand that this is an official certification that is going to help you as an agent. This is something that's going to help you do better business, write better business. It's going to help you operate a better business. So don't look at this as a huge negative. This is a positive. This is something that's helping your business, is helping the industry. So get in there with confidence, knowing that it's going to help you. And I'm telling you right now, the title of this video is How to Pass It the First Time. If you take the AHIP seriously, you can complete it in one afternoon and maybe in way less than that. You could do it in a span of 3 hours easy tops if you just sit down and you actually study the information that you're learning through the modules, and you will pass that test on the first try. And what's great about that is once you pass that, you're good for the year. You can sell for the year. You will have to take it again the next year because AHIP is required every year, and you'll have to do it again. But of course, the more you learn this information, the more that you're going to know, and you're going to sharpen your skills and be a better agent for it. So let's go online. Let's get the certification going. If you have questions about how to complete the AHIP, please reach out to Brock Partners. We would love to help you do that. If you're an agent, I would love for you to comment. Is this the first time you're taking the AHIP, or is this the 20th time? Tell me how many times you've taken the AHIP, and then comment what your top grade was. What's the top score that you ever gotten on the AHIP? So comment how many AHIPs you've taken and what your top score was. Would love to see that from everybody else. And then maybe throw in there is, do you think the AHIP's easy? Do you think it's hard? Let me know what you think. Thank you for joining this video. Good luck on your AHIP. You're going to pass it the first time. Get out there, be the best Brock partner you can be.